Oh, what was that?
Is a
Ghost. A ghost of Sam Phillips has just left the room.
Yes.
And I'm here with Ples Hampton.
That's it. Hi, everybody.
He's the staff engineer here. We're in Sam Phillips'
rock and roll dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of like
it's been recreated. This was his originally.
This is a consulate, a radio consulate that Sam used. Ours is slightly updated with
Check this thing out.
More of an independent.
It's been updated with a keyboard.
Yeah.
We're in the control room waiting to get into the studio where a tour is taking place. Okay.
Yeah, we do those.
So
all
this
day
is
long.
this is actually a museum
in the daytime.
in the daytime, right?
I like to think of it as a living, kind of a more museum is a different kind of, but a living, breathing studio that channels its power through people that work here.
Right. And how many people come through Sun Studio every day?
Probably average 800 a day.
800 people a day. Imagine that.
That's up to as many as 12 in the summertime and down to 5 or 6 in the wintertime in our 2 or 3 month lull. Yeah, we're very busy here. And then the recording at night, is just another layer. But I mean, it really is almost a 24-hour business, with the tour side being the profitable end. So that keeps this operation going. So
keep it going.
So cool.
Well, you're not gonna make any money selling studio time. We all know that.
No, absolutely not.
But I'm here.
Yeah, that's right.
We get to come in after 6 o'clock, after the tourists have all gone, and we're actually get to utilize the incredible room and the control room.
Yeah.
And obviously we're going to be doing some OneMic recordings. And
one incredible mic.
Yeah, one stereo incredible mic.
Yes.
But let's just talk a little bit more about the gear. Like these Ampex 350 tape recorders. Want to talk a little bit about those?
Primarily Sam would always record to his single, track Ampex 350 quarter-inch. But he did have a second one once he could afford it. The second one racked up in a mount over here that he would run with the RCA consulate and achieve a slapback, effect, which I think is a lot of people will call that the signature Sun sound.
I think so.
It's on almost everything.
You really hear it, particularly like on the Johnny Cash stuff.
Oh yeah.
You really hear the tape echo.
Yeah,
now,
Sam
should we tell my engineer friends about how many milliseconds? The Sam Phillips 350
that
Ampex.
is a great idea.
Because
public knowledge. The time is 133 milliseconds for the fast songs and 266 for the slow songs. That is the Sun sound measured out in.
You heard it here first. Thanks to the OneMic series.
Yes.
And you could see how I had to beat it out of him.
Yes, it was hard.
It was hard. It's not a well-kept secret.
Yeah.
Not anymore. This is pretty funny.
There it is.
Whoa! What happened?
Yeah.
Fast forward 60 years.
Yeah, really. This is our old tape machine, which we hollowed out so that it kind of looks the part in the daytime, and then it houses all of our equipment. It actually has, fans built in that you can use for the heat, and it's just it's a lovely way to keep it looking authentic in here, but also having.
So the entire OneMic project is recorded on Pro Tools at 9624 for practical reasons, not only for the high res benefits, but because we have to sync to video. It just makes it a million times easier to sync the audio to the video if everything's locked digitally. So it's easier to sync it. Where if we're going to tape, needless to say, if we were trying to record all the audio on one of these machines, they record at one speed, and then when you play them back, it's a slightly different speed. It'll fall out of sync with the video very quickly.
We have a number of single line preamps, and then also, of course, the RCA 50 era mixer preamps that are in our consulate. So about 20 total. We'll sort of mix and match those, just because this and its sister unit are 50s. This is a 60. These are actually my dad's old preamps. These are out of a Stax console, so we've got some hip stuff going on.
And needless to say, we're not going to find any modern acoustic treatment done in this room. It looks a lot like maybe
no soundproofing whatsoever.
Well, it looks like a classroom from the 1950s.
Yeah, it does.
You know?
My grandma's ceiling in her kitchen is what it reminds me of.
So what we're going to do is once this tour is done and we get the tourists out, we're going to go out into the room and we're going to talk a little bit about the room itself.
Yes.
It's very, very interesting. Now we're in the room. The room. This is
the birthplace of rock and roll is what many people call it, technically, because Rocket 88 and
Rocket
such.
88 was recorded in this room.
Although I personally like to think of rock and roll as more of a not a single place in space and time, but a region and a decade. So the reality, I like to think if Memphis is the rock and roll bomb, New Orleans is probably where the fuse was lit, and that whole thing in between is where it all happened. So but yes, this is the birthplace of rock and roll technically, if you go by the first rock and roll song.
This is where Elvis Presley came and cut his first demos.
Elvis.
Yeah.
Our hook.
You want to talk
our
about
most dramatic turn in our story. Aside from, I feel sometimes like Sam's story gets a little lost, but the hook is definitely Elvis. A young, unknown in the music business kid who likes playing guitar walks into this room, records a song. Sam wants nothing to do with him. And over the next year, comes back and back and back, driving Sam Phillips to the end of his rope. And then finally, Sam tells Scotty Moore and Bill Black, who are in other Sun bands, he says, guys, deal with this kid. Get this kid, get in here with him, and let's figure out something. And then Elvis Presley,
And one of his early songs he cut was Mystery Train, which was a cover
of a Junior Parker song.
Right, that was also recorded.
Yeah, which Sam Phillips also, a cool kind of thing about that is always, on the original Mystery Train, the credit is Parker Phillips. And then on the Elvis version, it's Parker Phillips Presley, because Sam had learned a little bit through that song about adding a lyric here and there and using that to retain a little bit of the publishing, which may or may not be super cool. But, Elvis at that point, he kind of got Elvis in on the action again. So, Elvis's Mystery Train, a big cover of Junior Parker's, and just a great song. And both of which were recorded right here.
Right.
It's so cool.
And then, of course, the early works of Mr. Roy Orbison.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Roy, all of his, I think, everybody recognizes this one Roy, Pretty Woman, anything you want. And there's this whole earlier side of Roy with a fuller band sound and, more live, Ooby Dooby and Rock House and Devil Doll and Chicken Hearted. These are incredible performances by Roy Orbison, who was pretty much unknown too. And, unknowns, if you talk about them, kind of the two main are Elvis and Johnny Cash.
Are these walls parallel?
And they are parallel.
They're parallel. So
right.
Probably when he came in and decided to make us do this, he's probably wondering, wow, this is not sounding right.
Certainly completely nightmarish situations when he first moved in. The acoustic tiling on the wall, the way it is, the way it covers every inch, when I look at it, I feel like I am understanding Sam's absolute frustration with this place when he first moved in, and the idea that the sound was just doing such crazy things, so he puts acoustic tiles up everywhere.
Yeah, because when you wanted to quiet the sound down, you went and bought acoustic tiles and put them on the walls. So with classrooms and theaters, and it was just a standard acoustic treatment. Right.
And this is what and Sam. Yeah. And in the later years, he actually put a giant theater curtain up on this wall. You can see it in a few.
To really quiet it down.
Yeah, and I've always kind of toyed with that idea. I would like it, but it isn't what he had until about 1956, and the earlier stuff is where
because in the earlier records he virtually used one microphone. The very early ones where the singer was saying on one side of a ribbon microphone, typically a bidirectional ribbon microphone. The other side of the microphone recorded the band, which is essentially what I'm going to be doing today. But I'm going to be doing a stereo version, but the technique is identical.
Yeah, right.
And the sound of the room will obviously penetrate this recording and actually, we'll be able to hear the room. Let me just put it that way.
Everything is sounding very cool.
So if you look at the ceiling, Sam was smart enough to make sure the ceiling wasn't parallel.
Right. And the front and back walls, I like to point out, not only are they angled, but the angles are horizontal here and vertical over on this wall, which is a pretty...
Have you measured the room? Do you
I have the measurements somewhere. But I don't recall off the top of my head what exactly it is. It's written down.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to find out what those
Yes.
are, and I'm going to reveal.
Yes. Sorry about that.
I am going to get back and let you know exactly what the dimensions of this room is, in case anybody wants to try to recreate it. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's funny because I think it's a real testament to, in a lot of ways, to why people. I mean, now everybody loves the sound of this room, and it's such an epic, iconic thing. But the idea is like in most studios after the 50s, you don't ever see stuff like this because it's, quite frankly, it's not up to any kind of standards,
right.
You know, because the walls, I mean, there's nothing, it's wooden frames and tiles on plywood, you know, it's like, it's just, these are all empty.
Hey, but you know what? Magic happens.
That's right.
Hit records
well, that's
happen.
You know, a good point to always focus on. And I love this philosophy of Sam's. I love this idea that you know, the gear, all those specifications. Like Sam, he was more in survival mode, so he didn't really have a lot of options, and he spent so much more time focusing on his clients.
Yeah.
You know, these early African American blues artists, they had never been in a place like this, and now they're here with this white guy in a suit behind a plate of glass telling them. So Sam had to come out and he had to work with these guys. And Elvis was so incredibly nervous and you know, falling to pieces. And Sam had to help build him up. And, you know, Johnny, I think the idea is Johnny was in a completely different style of music. And Sam suggests like sad country songs. And that worked out pretty well for Johnny Cash. So,
right. And Howlin' Wolf.
Yeah, I mean, and all these guys. Howlin' Wolf had never been in a studio before either.
Howlin' Wolf, what did he record here?
He did a lot of stuff. Moaning at Midnight and early Smokestack Lightning. He did Evil, which is a really good one. I asked for water. She gave me gatheline as one. And
can you imagine? In this room.
Yeah, I mean,
have we forgot about Jerry Lee Lewis?
There's tons of people that we've left out. Jerry's the bulk of his career that people recognize outside of his 70s. Country resurgence is here.
Right.
It's all here. He did a little bit of work before he met Sam with Cosimo Matassa in New Orleans, and then he moved up here to work at this label. And his biggest hits, you know, Great Balls of Fire, Whole Lot of Shaking. Those are the two biggest hits.
Whole Lot of Shaking, Great Balls of Fire. Yeah. You probably have heard those two songs before. All right, so that's a little bit of history.
Yes.
That's about this much to that much of history. Get Sam Phillips's book. What's it called?
The Man Who Invented Rock and Roll by Peter Guralnick.
Read that book.
Fantastic.
It's an incredible book. It'll tell you everything you ever want to know about it.
And come to Sun.
And come to Sun when you're in town, or make it a trip. Bring the family. Come here. You can come here and walk around. There's a gift shop next door, and it's lots of T-shirts and stuff like that. So before we bring the band in and get started, I spoke to AEA today. They want Sun Studio to have their very own R88. So I'm going to give Sun Studio my R88 to continue to record awesomeness in this room.
Incredible.
There you go.
Just an incredible piece of equipment. And I'm thrilled to think about how much fun we will have here using this forever.
All right.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome, man.
Thanks,
Enjoy.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
We will.